Okay, we're live. That was a fancy countdown.
Yeah, it was very fancy. I was like, ooh, we're counting down to something.
Okay, so today I'm here with Kristin Deese. Is that how you say your last name?
It's like cheese with a D. But
Deese. Okay.
I mean, I'll answer to it. It's fine.
Cool. So she is a consultant for businesses, and I think sometimes that's kind of a broad term. Like, what does that mean? So why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here, by the way. It's fun. I love doing that stuff. I do a lot of my own stuff, so it's fun to be on others' things. So I'm a business consultant. I founded Catalyst Consulting a couple of years ago. And my background is in operations and business management. So I've done a lot of those kinds of things, which means I'm a bit of a generalist. Like I know a little bit about, well, more than a little bit in some cases, but a little bit about everything when it comes to running a business. So that's kind of where I take that experience with my superpower of strategic big picture planning and help people create structure out of chaos. Essentially, that's kind of where I come in. So it's like, sometimes I'm a little bit of a project manager. And if Tanya, if you're like, hey, I'm rebranding, let's just say, and it's like, I need to have all these things in place, or I'm going to have a brick and mortar office now, and I didn't have one before. Like I want to hire an assistant, like all the things that kind of have to happen. A lot of times I'm kind of the go-between, like I'll reach out and find a website designer, out of the people that I know, or I'll find a branding expert like you, or something like that, where I'm kind of like the keeping it all together and keeping things organized, because lots of entrepreneurs and dreamers are not always the most organized people. Like that's just, it's a right brain, left brain thing, I think, for the most part. And some of us have a little bit of both. Like I'm still a bit of a dreamer, but I'm also very structured and organized. So that's kind of where I come in and bring in a little bit of that balance. And then I just happen to have the like business management experience too, that kind of like helps with that piece where I'm like, okay, I know we need to have these things in place, and this is where I can help, or this is where I think we need to bring in like a real expert, like someone like Tanya, to be like, we need to do branding, we need to do a commercial shoot, whatever the thing is. So cool. So a little bit of everything.
Awesome. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So I already have questions. So, but before that, I want to tell everyone, like, if you're watching live, just leave a comment so we know you're there. Sometimes it feels weird to be talking into the nowhere, right? I'd love to know if people are watching. And then if you're watching the replay, just type replay just so we know. And then if you have any questions, just type them in the comments and we will address them as we go along. So, okay. So first of all, do you have a specific like size or type of business you typically work with, or is it kind of all over the place?
It's kind of all over. So what I'm kind of doing right now is actually narrowing my focus a little bit. So I paused somewhat on taking new consulting clients. So I have a few that I still have that I've been on retainer with for a while. And it's mostly like single business owner. There's a couple where it's been like a partnership kind of thing, but a little bit smaller. And right now I'm focusing more on my like DIY resources and stuff. So I'm building out more of that content on my website so I can get some of that stuff going for people, where there's like courses they can take, or DIY things that they can get, like checklists and social media resources. But then my focus is going to shift more to a little bit larger businesses. So businesses that have been established for a while, maybe 10 to 20 employees or so. That's kind of where I want to head to next when it comes to like actual like consulting clients. So yeah, but it's been mostly like solopreneur kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, like when I started my freelancing business in 2006, which is like, seems so long ago, and yet yesterday. Like my business was pretty simple. I was a freelancer. I had like 5 clients. They just sent me work. I did it and sent it back to them. I didn't have to do any marketing. Like I was trying to think back to like what systems and processes did I have or didn't have, because it was pretty simple. I mean, I realized super early on that like creating invoices from scratch was taking forever. So I got a software where you just, it tracks your time, and then you just click a button and it sends an invoice. Like that saved time, So, but as I've grown, like all those things I've had to do have multiplied. And so, so I'm at the point now where I am looking for opportunities to systematize and automate things. So when you go in to help a business, how do you find those things? Or if, like, for someone like me, what would you recommend they do? Like, if you don't necessarily need a consultant, or thinking, you don't know if you need a consultant, what are some things we could do to kind of identify those things?
Yeah, no, good question. So the first place I kind of start is walking through, especially when we're talking about like looking for process improvements, automation opportunities, like efficiency gains, or you're looking to hire somebody and you need to make sure that you can effectively onboard a person, and then also effectively teach them how to do their job without having to be assigning tasks constantly, if that makes sense. So a lot of us, because we just like in our heads know what needs to get done, we do the things all the time. And then trying to communicate that effectively to a person, one, what they're supposed to do regularly, and then two, how they're supposed to do it, like teaching them the actual function of the job is difficult sometimes. So usually what I'll kind of do is walk through like the workflow, like whether it's your entire customer journey, or maybe it's like, I need a VA to help me with email management or client communication, like whatever the thing is, like then you kind of start from the beginning of that and just write out what you do. If I'm involved, then I'm usually like, we're talking through it and I'm making notes and everything like that as we go. But if it's you, then you just like sit down and, okay, what are all the different steps that I do during this process? And in some of those, you can find, you kind of mentioned this a little bit already, the repeatable processes, the things that you do repeatedly that you can find a faster way for, like the invoice management system. That kind of helps visually outline what you're doing. And then it usually will help you go, oh, okay, like that's kind of silly. I don't know why I do it this way. Like, it's just, that's the way I've been doing it for forever. So you identify some of those little repeatable processes where you can create something like an automation of sorts, or maybe it's a checklist that you send to all of your clients that you keep sending, like you keep creating every time. Like you can create a form that you just use every time, and maybe you just send them a Google form instead of, anyway, right? Like there's a million little things, but so we kind of start there and then go from, so like the concept of, if you were going to have to hire somebody, that's generally where it's kind of like, okay, so what would you do? What systems are in place? And then what tools could you use that would help some of this stuff? Because that's usually where it starts coming into like the efficiency gains and process improvement is, how do I make it less manual? How do I make it more automated? And there's a lot of different ways to do some of those things nowadays. There's tons of different tools out there. So
yeah. Cool. Awesome. So we have a question. Misty says, Kristin, do you help a business find the system or process, or create it? I guess I would.
Oh, Misty. Hi. I'll send you back a message on Facebook. It's fine. So do you help business find the system? Yeah. It kind of depends on where you're at. So I know about a lot of different systems, like, or the tools to hold the system, but that's usually what I'm kind of helping people with, is like talking through getting it out of your brain, because that's a lot of us, especially solopreneurs, are in our own heads all the time, and we just can't, like, you can't see the forest for the trees, because it's just all there. So I'll just have people, I know you do, Misty, it's fine. She sent me a message earlier this week. It's like just having that voice. It's why having a coach is helpful in situations where you just have another person to be like, you're okay, it's okay, it's fine. So I definitely help with that.
Okay, cool. And then what are some typical things that you recommend people outsource or automate, where, like, I guess when, the solopreneurs especially, we feel like we have to do everything. And sometimes I think for me, I didn't realize a lot of the things that I could outsource, because I did do what you said, like write down everything that I do and then identify like what is the thing I can't really hand off at this point because I'm the expert or whatever. And then what are the other things? So are there typical things, like when you come in and they haven't done anything, that you recommend right off the bat?
It's usually kind of the opposite direction. So what are the things that you don't have to do? Like, that don't have to be Tanya. And then start progressively, and this is kind of, it depends on where you're at, right? Like if you're at a point where you're in your business and you're like, I need to grow or scale and I need to hire a whole entire person to help me with all of these things, or you're kind of like ad hoc adding, like that's where maybe you have a part-time VA that helps you 5 hours a week, and you can be like, okay, so let's start with emails. Like the other piece of this too is figuring out how you work best. One thing that I realized that I hate doing, it's so dumb. This has been my entire like leadership career too. I just figured this out. I was like, oh, I don't like putting the information into the system. So I'll take notes when I'm having conversations. I'm a note type person. But then like having to put the information into like a CRM or sending like a follow-up email just is brutal. So I was like, oh, I can have a VA do that for me, where I can just do a voice recording and be like, hey, this is a recap of the conversation, where it takes me like 3 minutes. And I can send that off to her. She puts the information in my CRM for me. And then sometimes we'll send a follow-up email to the person I talk to, depending. But like those little things where it's like, it's still my brain, but then I don't have to actually do that stuff. Like someone else can do it. So
Well, and I think too, when we hate doing those tasks, we just don't do them. Right. And then it's like stops the process from happening. You know, for me, like answering my emails, I hate calls. Like I've tried to get I'll call people, but I don't like to answer my phone.
No, I'm the same. Also with email too. I sensed that about you, because I'm like, that's the least quick way to get a hold of me. I can't get it. I'm like,
right. Well, I just felt like I was drowning in emails. It just like 90% of my emails were crap, and only a small part I actually need to respond to. So that's the first thing I outsourced, was just someone to sort through my emails, and then if there's something really urgent, like text me and tell me that I have to go in and answer an email.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, if I'm doing a photo shoot for a whole day, I'm not checking my email. You know? So that's one of the first things I think the solopreneurs especially can outsource. Because, you know, a CEO or something is going to have someone sorting through their emails too, you know, for sure. They've got someone answering the phone for them and checking all that stuff. And just making sure they only have to handle what they have to handle themselves. So
exactly. It's exactly the same. I mean, because we are CEOs, it just sometimes doesn't feel like we're quite as bougie as like a CEO of a multi-million dollar or billion-dollar company. You know, like they have assistants and whatnot, like you said. So but that's a good way to kind of look at it too, is like, what if I had an actual assistant, like what are the things that they would be doing? They would help you with your scheduling and calendar management, your CRM stuff, like because for me too, like that's one of the things that I've never been super great at, is like the CRM management stuff. I tell people all the time to do it because it is super important. I just keep putting the stuff in there. And like you said too, it's just, it takes time to like have all that communication going. And so that's hard for me, because like we're in the same boat, I think, in some ways, where I have meetings a lot throughout the day. So like there's days where I can't do the stuff, and I'm like, I feel bad. I'm not going to send a Facebook message in the morning and then not respond for a week. Which is what happens, sometimes. But so anyway.
Well, and two, finding ways to automate. So on my website, if they fill out the form in the contact, it automatically goes into my CRM, all the information they put in there. So their name, their email, their phone number, address, and sends me a lead form. So I try to direct people toward that instead of just calling me, because same thing, I'm on a photo shoot, I'm not going to answer my phone. I tried an answering service, it didn't work out very well. So especially since, again, 99% of my calls were junk. So I'm paying someone to answer my phone to talk to telemarketers.
That's funny.
About that. So I maybe get a phone call like twice a month or something. And that's probably because I've created most of my communications to direct them towards scheduling a call or filling out the form. So Misty says, Tanya, did someone set that up for you? So I just use 17 Hats, a CRM, and it's super easy. I just created the form, and then you get some code, and it just embeds into your website. So they fill out the form, and it automatically goes to my CRM. So I did it myself, but an assistant or something could do that for you. So my VA right now is helping me automate more stuff within 17 Hats. Like you can create workflows for things that you do over and over. And then you just activate the workflow, and it has the checklists and assignments for each person. So that's one way we're automating stuff, just to make it easier. And like you said, to be able to hand it off to someone else. So I'm not having to do it all the time. Mm-hmm. So let's see. You kind of mentioned your superpower. Do you want to elaborate a little more on that? Like, if you could only do one part of your business forever, what's the one thing you would want to do for people over and over?
I love the identifying problems and creating solutions. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember who I was talking to. I was going to be involved in a nonprofit at some point in time, and they were like, "Oh, it's kind of a shit show," and I was like, "That's great.
Like, I'll fix it."
Yeah, awesome. Stuff that works is boring. So, right? So I'm like, yeah, I can come in and create some structure, and a couple things that I do sometimes is just streamline the communication processes, mm-hmm. Where it's all this stuff is here, and where's the documents? Where's it? Some of it's in hard copy form, which is what? It's on paper. So yeah, just is centralizing communications and creating that kind of stuff too. But yeah, I love just going into whatever business team and being cool, okay, this is what's going on. I can see that this is an area of opportunity. This seems to be going pretty well, but then if we revamp this, then it'll be good. And then leaving. I like to just and then go, because it is boring to me. I don't having something that's just good.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't do it. Yeah.
Right. You basically set them up with the processes they need for the employees to take over.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. And mostly this is where I want to get into the larger, businesses that have a decent amount of employees, is the team building and culture stuff is what I really do love. Mm-hmm. That kind of stuff, teaching people, strengths and weaknesses and how everybody can work together, and teaching leaders how to have effective conversations and have tough conversations, how to set expectations effectively and then hold people accountable to those without being a micromanager psychopath, where's the balance, right? And creating a really strong team culture. That's one of my strengths. I have people that have worked for me before that if I was hey, I have a job, will you work for me? They'd be like, yeah, I don't even care what it is.
Yeah. Cool.
So that kind of stuff,
Yeah. I love that. Do you know Jeff McLaughlin? He, his business is called Professionals at Play, and he comes in and does workshops with businesses on how to have more fun. That might be a connection for you in creating that culture for people. Anyway, I can introduce it if you want to.
Yeah, I feel I saw him. He did a presentation in some group that I was in, a networking group. So
okay, cool. Yeah, he's really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. What's the next question I had? So how do you help businesses with marketing? We talked before. Is that something where you're just advising them and then you're handing off tasks, or what have you typically done as far as helping with marketing?
Yeah, so I'm usually involved in the strategy piece of it. I try not to do a lot of the content creation stuff, because that's not what I love to do. And I can do it, it's just not my forte. So I'll usually be involved in the strategic planning session stuff. Who are you? What is your message? What are we trying to get across? What platforms do we need to be that kind of stuff, and help build out the overall content plan. And then depending on how it's set up, if they're the one that's doing their social media or whatever, or if they have a person, then I'm usually kind of communicating that to the person that's doing their social media stuff.
Okay, cool. So for example, you would do that, and then maybe you would say, okay, now you need to go to Work Story, and they'll create your photos, videos, and social media templates. Mm-hmm. And that would be one way we can make it work together. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that's a lot of what I'll do is connect people. And sometimes too, depending on us, I know you, I know what your price points are. I know who you like to work with and who works best with you for the most part. So I'm Tanya or Tanya's maybe here in their price range right now, but we can start here. And then this is where we're trying to get to down the road, because you do phenomenal work. So, just, Anyway.
Right. Okay. So let's see. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see small businesses making, like from the, solopreneur all the way up to those 20 to 25 employee companies?
Trying to do too much and trying to do too much of the things they don't like to do or hate. Right. If you want to, the things, which are usually the things that they're not great at either.
True.
Yeah, I've found anyway. That's like one of the things that I have people do when we're talking about like what they can do, or like what they can give away, or how to just do more of what they love, is the like write down the things that you really enjoy that bring you actual joy, and then the things that you're good at, and then the things that you absolutely hate, and then the things that you're bad at, and then you kind of look for the common themes amongst those. But yeah, so trying to do everything, and like you were talking about earlier too, not being able to let go of some of the stuff that just gets in your way and is so time consuming. Like all the admin, back office kind of stuff is the stuff that usually takes too much time and doesn't really help you grow your business. It's just maintaining. So
yeah, I think that's a lot of kind of mindset too, like especially if you need to hire someone, but your revenue isn't really where you feel like it needs to be. But so taking that leap of faith where if I hire someone, supposedly I'll be able to bring in more revenue because you're doing more of the tasks that bring you in revenue. So for me, at least, that's been where I've struggled, because I know I need help, but then I'm like, okay, am I going to be able to sustain an employee with your revenue, especially when you're just starting out or you're that solopreneur. So
yeah, exactly.
Find yourself like having to coach them through some of those things where, they don't want to let go. And you're giving them like a pep talk or something like that.
Oh yeah. It's a little bit of therapist. There's one of my friends actually was like, I was trying to describe what I do, right? And he's like, what exactly? I mean, you're a consultant, but, and he's like, oh, so you're like a business therapist. And I was like, I mean, that's pretty spot on. Yeah. I mean, that's great. I took a lot of that from my like leadership experience too, is basically part therapist, parent, cop, judge.
Right.
Yeah, but definitely like helping people through some of that stuff. Like I definitely do a little bit like more traditional coaching in some of those aspects too, where we're working through roadblocks and mindset stuff as it relates to, like you said, like let go. It's okay. You don't have to send personally every email.
And just thinking ahead, like, because I think, sometimes we're just stuck in where we are now instead of thinking like, how could it be? So I feel the same with photography and brand creation. Like, I'm like a self-esteem coach, I think a little bit, like people are like, I don't want to have my picture taken. I look so bad in pictures. So I'm having to like coach them through and be like, have a little faith in me. I'm an expert at this. And same with the branding creation. Like I've had people, when we're creating logos, creating websites, and they're just not sure, right? They're like doubting, is this going to be the right thing? And I just have to be like, okay, I am an expert. This is going to be great. Whatever decision you make, I'm helping you, guide you through. So I think that's definitely a skill you have to have as a service provider, I guess.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think, I don't remember if we were talking about this or if it was somebody else, because I think it was around the same time that we did our podcast recording, was it's like the coaching, and we, especially in the service-based businesses, there's elements of coaching to what we do. And like even Misty has had similar stuff too, where she's like, oh, I'm an expert in this stuff as it relates to me. So I'm going to teach other people how to do it. And some of that comes from like having the same conversations over and over again. And you're like, oh, this is actually okay. All right. Like there's a little bit of coaching in here too. I would be sad if there wasn't, because I really do love that. That's one thing I miss about having a team like of direct reports, is the coaching and stuff. But yeah.
Now you just do it for everyone you work with.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I was like, I'm just going to handle everyone's problems. Makes me feel good. Helping other people help other people.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So is there one last like piece of advice you would like to give, or anything you want to talk about or share with the people watching?
Good question. I mean, aside from don't do everything yourself, that's really a very big one, but you can do anything you want, man. It's just figuring out how to get there. Like that's another piece of what I help people with, really, is that like, you can do whatever you want. Like, I mean, if you really wanted to be an astronaut at this point, you could figure out how to be an astronaut. It just takes hard work and dedication. But it's figuring out how you can do things. Like stop getting in the like, I can't because X, Y, and Z. Like for example, having conversation with people in really regulated industries about social media, insurance agents, mortgage brokers, like people in those where they're highly regulated and some of their companies are also extra. So it's like, instead of worrying about what you can't do, figure out what you can do and how you can leverage that to make your presence known on social media or wherever, because there are still ways to do it, right? It's just kind of thinking outside the box stuff. So yeah, think outside the box, find ways that you can do the things that you want to do and get out of your own way mostly.
Great. Yeah. I have a client, Northtown Insurance, and they do a phenomenal job on their social media, thinking outside the box. You know, they do a lot of giving to charity. You know, no one's going to regulate you like, hey, we're raising money for this charity. you know? And then they just are really great with educational pieces and showing how fun their team is and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they do cute, like fun videos, creative videos, little cheesy, quirky, like fun stuff. Like, I like that.
Yeah, and when I first met with the owner, she wasn't all like, oh, we can't do this, we can't do this. Like, she was just like, you know, like you said, thinking outside the box, how can we connect with our community and stuff? Because I have run into a lot.
Hey.
Yeah, I've met with several. Then they're in insurance and financial planning and stuff, and they're like, well, I'm just not going to do it because there's so many regulations. You know, they're really missing on an opportunity. So I could see how bringing someone like you in could really help them, just like you said, get out of their own head. Oh, Lisa, she's the owner of Northtown Insurance. She says, but the I can'ts keep me in my comfort zone. Lisa, I think you're doing a good job. So
yeah, you're doing great. Yeah. All the time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. I think this is a great conversation, hopefully helpful for some of the small businesses thinking about growing and what they need to do. So before we go, I just want to put in a little plug for my upcoming workshop. It's called How to Price Your Luxury Services. And this came from mostly photographers asking all the time in all the groups I'm in, you know, how much do I charge for this? How much do I charge as I'm moving into commercial photography, or even just photography in general, but also any service provider, right? Especially if you're doing one-on-one services, I see a lot of business owners not charging enough. And that is a barrier to growing, right? You can't hire someone if you're charging a rate that you would be making as an employee instead of as a business. So, and it's going to be a 3-day workshop in June. And if anyone's interested in that, just message me and I'll send you a link to the page with more information. So I still have spots left and it's going to be live on Zoom. So we're actually going to meet at a specific time and I'll have a presentation and then you can ask questions and homework and everything. So you can walk away with a lot of clarity on your pricing. So
nice. That's super important.
Yeah. Right. And we're actually going to talk about, you know, your target market, keeping them in mind, and some psychology behind pricing. So it's going to be more than just like, here's a cost of business calculator, which I see a lot of people doing, right? So anyway, so if anyone else has questions for Kristin or me, if we didn't catch you on the live, just leave them in the comments and I'll make sure we answer them. And then where can we find you? If anyone wants to reach out to you or find more information, where's the place?
I am on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the internet. So my website is catalystconsultingservice.com. And I have a free, I think, what do I have on there right now? I think it's my free social media starter kit that's on there right now. So if you sign up for my email subscription, you get that. And then Facebook and Instagram is just Catalyst Consulting Service is my username, handle, whatever you want to call it.
There so people can find it.
Perfect.
Cool. And then you have a Facebook group too, right?
Yes.
Would it be what's that? So people can
I'll actually find the link here. I meant to grab that before. So it is business support for entrepreneurs and small businesses. and it's a little bit of everything. So kind of using the pillars that I kind of teach people on as the foundation of the information. So kind of similar to yours, where you're teaching people. I do weekly Facebook Lives. I have one today at 3 Pacific time.
Okay.
And yeah, so
what was it called again? I'm going to put it in there.
Business support for entrepreneurs. Can I comment? Because I can share oh no, it doesn't look like. It's facebook.com/groups/business support for entrepreneurs is the rest.
Okay, cool. So let's see. We have another question from Misty. She's ready to optimize. Do you evaluate what businesses are currently using?
Or want to use and optimize the business? Yeah. So it kind of depends. Like I have a business audit that I do too. So that's like a pretty comprehensive, like I send it to you and you fill out all the answers to the questions and stuff. It's just kind of like a gauge of where you're at and where you're functioning right now, like as far as like all those different pillars. And then from there, it's like, hey, okay, so what are we trying to work on?
Right.
Create a structure from that. Kind of like your brainstorming. Is that what you called it?
The brainstorm. So, yeah, instead of a questionnaire, though, I actually meet with you and go through the questions and have a conversation. So it's really in depth. And same thing. I kind of analyze like, what are you doing that's great? What could you do that's better? And then give you a recommendation. So sounds kind of similar. Just I didn't do the branding realm versus automation.
But, we do that. It's just the questions go first usually, and then we have a conversation afterwards.
Okay.
But
nice. Yeah. So it sounds like you and Misty need to have a conversation.
We talked last weekend too. So
okay, cool.
I'm up late. Okay.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming on, and go join her Facebook group and connect up if you need some help in automating and growing your business. And I will see you all next week. Let me see, who am I having on next week? I'll give you guys a sneak peek. I think it's Kurt Stockwell from Well Just Walrus. I'm really excited for that conversation. So we work together quite a bit, and he'll actually be the first guy coming on the show. So I'm like, it's all been women so far. I swear I work with men too. So anyway, have a great week, and I'll see you later.
See ya.